Liability explicit or implied shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. This is one of our few shows that it's a local show, but we promote it throughout the country because their offices are in Houston, Texas. So if you're listening from another city, another state, you are welcome to join in today. I've got to tell you, I've been doing this show for 16 years. And we have probably about 15 of our shows who have been with us throughout the years when we did this on radio, and then we moved over to podcast. This morning's expert is our second longest running show. And I got to tell folks, I do a lot of research about our experts and in their field. It's part of the reason why this show has lasted for 16 years. This company, Taxation Solutions, it is amazing. Now, I'm not saying they don't get any bad reports. I get bad reports, but this company, I've looked at other, what they call major tax solution companies, and I read about them, and they do all this multi-million-dollar advertising. You know, a lot of those companies are out of business now. And if you look at it, the main thing was customer service. People were so dissatisfied with their customer service. And it's just a pleasure to have Taxation Solutions and Barry Fowler, what he has created over the years. You know, when you go with a tax solution company, they understand how tough it is when you've got the IRS after you. And they have survived over the years. And it's because of their customer service. It's because of their knowledge. Let me just welcome. I call him my friend. I love doing the show with him. We love it so much. He does an hour show twice a month with us, and he has his own podcast. Welcome, Barry Fowler.
Hey, Steve-O, it's great to be here. Good morning, and
Morning,
man,
buddy.
it's a glorious day after tax day. You know, everybody feels relief. We got our extensions in, right?
Yeah, I know. Barry, I got to tell you, it's like I feel like Johnny Carson doing a monologue when I do your show because I love you. I love your company. I love what you do to people, for people. I love the fact that it is tough when the IRS is after you, and it's sleepless nights. It it puts so much pressure on someone. And here you are, you can relieve people of those pressures, and they don't have to worry once they sign up with you. Tell people, I love the story of Taxation Solutions. Tell people about your company.
Well, Steve, you know, Taxation Solutions, we've been around since around 2008, I believe it was, helping people, you know, with their taxes. We were doing tax relief even before we created Taxation Solutions to help people nationwide. And, you know, you talk about advertising and the millions of dollars worth of budgets that some of these large companies have. My budget consists of doing these shows with you and word of mouth and referrals from our clients. And if that isn't the greatest testimonial to a business as it is, I don't know what is. If your business exists on referrals from past clients, people that you've helped get through tax problems, in my opinion, you are the greatest success in this business, because our former clients all love us and want to continue to send us people to fix other people's problems. And I know people don't like to talk about tax problems. We knew that all along. Even when they call us, they're hesitant to talk about a tax problem or tell us what their tax problem is. But that's not what you really need to do. We're in no judgment zone. We're not passing judgment with you. A lot of times the IRS is completely wrong, and we just need to fix the IRS's problem, get them to pull their head out of the sand. And once we get that done, then you have instant relief. If it has to be an offer in compromise, we're giving you the customer service and staying in touch with you that you deserve for the money that you're going to spend to get somebody out of this problem, and that you can have relief and maybe a little bit of stress-free sleep at night, knowing that somebody else is getting that tax monkey off your back and you don't have to deal with it yourself.
Barry, you have a lot of enrolled agents who work for you. And we've never really talked about this before. I mean, people love you, they see you, you're the company, but you have other agents that work for you, and they're going to give people the same type of customer service because you trained them.
Well, if they don't, they're out of here. I mean, that's really the way it works. If you're not going to give the clients the service and the attention that they deserve, there's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. You need to work for somebody else that doesn't care about the people. My staff, everybody that's here, have been with me for quite a while. They know how to take care of clients. Clients may not like what we have to say at times, but sometimes the truth does hurt, and there's not much you can do about it. We're not going to tell you what you want to hear. We're going to tell you reality. And, yes, we're going to try to, be nice and sugarcoat it a little bit, but sometimes it stinks and you don't like it, but it is what it is. We even have people that are referred to us that we talk to them and then, I'm going to call this other company because, they promised me this or this. Well, we're sitting down talking about it. They promised you an offer in compromise, but you got too much equity in your house. You got too much money in your 401k. You got too much money in your bank account, or you make too much money, or you don't have enough in bills and you still make too much money so you can afford to pay them. And we tell them the God's honest truth, and they go, well, XYZ tax relief told us we can get the offer in compromise. Well, did they ask you any questions? No, but they told me we can get there. Well, I'm sorry, the truth does hurt, because there is no way you qualify because of these reasons. Now, if you want to go there and try it, it's a waste of your money. Let's get you into a realistic plan that is right for you and fits your situation, not the cookie cutter pipe dream that you want because it sounds fantastic. That's sometimes the hard part.
Barry, sometimes we don't talk as much about you handling companies, their business, when it comes to tax relief. And those numbers are staggering, right? I mean, those numbers really get up there when you do a business.
Just last week, a former client of ours referred this daycare to us. Daycare happens to owe roughly, okay, you got to be sitting down for this one, $800,000 in payroll taxes. Ask how that can be. Well, when you don't pay your payroll taxes quarter after quarter, and you employ as many people as they do across 2 or 3 different daycares, add the penalties, add the interest, add the extra penalties, and now it's $800,000. So, we deal with companies' problems. A lot of companies, if you're an S corp or you're a partnership or even a Schedule C and you got employees, the main liability a lot of times is those payroll taxes. Now, if you are an 1120 filer, incorporated business that hasn't made the S corp election, you may have taxes that are due that the company's got to pay. And then you're subject to double taxation when you take distributions as well. So, we deal with all those taxes. We will help people and businesses through those problems. Now, I got to tell you, what we stress and we start looking at when we're dealing with these businesses is that we really want to get the trust fund part of it paid off as soon as possible before the IRS goes and start issuing trust fund penalties. Because once the IRS issues trust fund penalties, it not just affects the owners of the business, but it can affect any manager in the business, anybody that definitely signs on the checking account and has signed checks can be held subject to those trust fund penalties. That means you start paying those personally, in addition to the business paying those payroll taxes as well. They're not going to let you off the hook. So, we've got to be very, very careful in trying to help you and make sure that you get that trust fund portion paid off. We're working with that daycare right now to pay off some of the trust fund taxes. Now, trust fund taxes and payroll is the amount you withhold from your employees. So when you're doing payroll, you're withholding Social Security, you're withholding Medicare, and you're withholding the federal income tax, and you're withholding any state income tax. So we try to make sure that you get all those funds that you withheld from their check paid as soon as possible before that revenue officer decides to start issuing trust fund penalties. Now, the fun part for us is, in the past, we're usually pretty good. We'll usually head off any revenue officer, get those trust funds paid off just in the nick of time before he issues the trust fund penalties, and then we laugh. Because that means all we're dealing with is payroll taxes that are left that were the companies, and the individual people in the company that are the owners or signers on the checking account don't have to pay the trust fund penalties. And then that guy usually is mad, and we have to go to his manager to calm him down and let him know that we're right. Again, but that's just the way life goes, So if you're in business and you're facing those problems, hey, give us a call at 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. Now, this is after tax season, so this is a great time to call, because first thing we're going to start you with is a transcript analysis, whether you're business or personal. We always want to look at the transcripts and make sure everything you're saying is right and find out everything else that needs to be done before we start going through the process of solving the rest of the problem. And that transcript analysis, hey, we're giving 50% off. Just mention Ask the Experts, and, we'll give you that big discount because we want to help you out. And that's what we're here for. And that's why I come on Ask the Experts, both here in Houston and nationwide, so that people understand that we are here to help. And, at the end of the day, once we do the transcript analysis, we can tell you everything that needs to be done. We'll even tell you if you should just do it yourself and not use us. That may cost us money, but sometimes it's easy or better for you to do it yourself than for us to, spend the time and spend your money doing something that you can do that's simple, that was not going to get you in trouble.
No, we love when our viewers and listeners write in, and we can. I want to thank Penny for writing her question, Barry. What happens if you get a rejection on an e-file?
Well, it depends on the rejection. So if you've got an e-file and you've done it yourself, you've got basically 5 days to fix it. So depending on what your rejection was for, I mean, we see rejections because you didn't include the 1095A, which is the Obamacare health care that you may have gotten through the marketplace. Sometimes it's you typoed W-2's, employer identification number for your employer, or maybe that may have been on a 1099, or maybe if you're separated or divorced, maybe your ex claimed a child that you tried to claim. So those are things you've got to go in and fix, and then get it refiled within the next 5 days. Hopefully, if you owed money, hopefully you've gone online and paid it, or it got paid through the e-file. If it didn't get paid through the e-file itself, then go online and make that payment right away, especially if you can't fix that tax return within the next, basically 4 days from now. So you really want to go in and fix those things. Those rejections should have notes. Our tax software, if we were to get a rejection, it'll tell us that this client was rejected for this reason, and we've got to go in and fix it. And sometimes it's the identity protection PIN. And you may, you get that letter in January, you may not have really paid attention to it. Or if you're like a lot of people, they see an IRS letter and they figure out that if I put it in the circular file, it doesn't affect me. Well, that wasn't one saying you had money due. It was actually something you asked for at some period of time. And so they send you a new identity protection PIN every single year. And you should have opened that up, and you need that PIN to file. That secures your Social Security number for IRS purposes that nobody else would file for you. So you're going to have to pick up the phone and call the IRS and try to get that identity protection PIN. Now, if you didn't know and you were getting a refund, it just delays your refund. There won't be any penalties if you have money coming back. So you don't have to worry about that. Still just try to get it done as soon as possible.
Barry, let's go to Cam on our chat line. By the way, we have a chat line. You're more than welcome to ask Barry any questions. Last year, we had forms 2553 and 1120. This year, there was 8453 and 1120S. Are these forms changes from last year or the wrong ones?
Well, Cam, thanks for the question. I always love questions. Even on Tax Talk for You, my radio show that we do Mondays at 10 a.m., we take questions all the time. So, feel free to bring the questions on. This is one of my favorite things about, Ask the Experts is answering questions. But, hey, Cam, 2553 is your election to be an S Corp. So you would have filed that within the first 2.5 months of the year you're choosing to become an S Corp. So in 2023, if you're choosing to be an S Corp for 2024, you would have filed the 2553. And then because you were not an S Corp in the previous year, you filed the 1120. Now, once you became an S Corp and the IRS accepted that election, then you're filing the 1120S. That 8453 should have been filed when you did the 2553 if the IRS required it. There was really not a reason to file that form for 2024 with your 1120S. You would have signed the 8879 for the 1120S is what you would have signed. But maybe they were coming in and following up for late election relief. Maybe the 1120 or the 2553 didn't get in time. Maybe they didn't see that you had an acceptance letter. There's multiple reasons that they could have been doing that form for you. But as long as you have proof of acceptance that your 1120S went through, you should be good. Now, that being said, The IRS is sometimes known to let that slip through and it be accepted, and it appears accepted. And 6 months from now, they're going to say you filed the wrong return. You should have filed an 1120. If that does happen, and your CPA, enrolled agent, your tax preparer, whoever did your returns for you doesn't know what to do, call Taxation Solutions at 877-996-6477. We know how to go in and get late election relief to make you an S Corp for 2024, so you don't have to go back and refile. Matter of fact, we see people all the time that'll come to us and say, "Hey, I'm an S Corp," and we ask for that S Corp letter to prove that they actually got their acceptance from the IRS, because you're not an S Corp unless the IRS accepts it. Now, if you're an LLC and you put it in as multi-member, your EIN letter that you're going to get will tell you exactly how you got to file. So if you put it in as a single member, even though you may have a partner in it, it's going to tell you to file it on your Schedule C. But as soon as you have a partner, you then file the partnership return 1065. It does not make you an S Corp because you said on your SS4 when you applied for your employer identification number that you want to be an S Corp. It actually tells you in the letter you have more forms to file, such as the 2553, the 8453. So you got to be aware of those things as you're working through your taxes. And your tax preparer should be asking these questions before they ever prepare your return. Now, if you've been doing it for years, they're going to take the prior years and going to take, what's on there. But if it's your first year, they're definitely going to want to see those forms, or should anyway.
Barry, I hope people don't misunderstand. You don't just do work with clients that have tax problems. You also do bookkeeping and you assist with audits. There's a lot of things that Taxation Solutions does.
Yes, I mean we do, and we do bookkeeping for truckers, and a lot of our clients that we do tax relief for will end up doing their bookkeeping because they request us to do it. We have a sister company that we started called truckertaxtools.com. So we do bookkeeping and taxes for truckers. And on that side, you can still call us at Taxation Solutions at 877-996-6477. Then you can talk about trucker bookkeeping, but truckertaxtools.com does bookkeeping nationwide for truckers, over the road truckers. Our deals start at $25 a week. It's we do bookkeeping. We love to do bookkeeping for truckers and help them out. We've seen truckers be in more tax problems than many other small businesses out there because, one, they don't have the time to do the bookkeeping. Two, they don't want to do it. Who wants to come home after being on the road for a week or two or a month or 6 months or whatever you're on the road for and sit down and do bookkeeping? So we make it simple. We make it easy. Getting documents to us as simple as, sending us PDFs of your bank statements, even giving us an accountant's login to your bank account where we can download information, or your credit cards. Those things, we try to make it as simple and easy as possible for you. And that's why we set up Trucker Tax Tools, specifically for truckers, to make it simplified, make it easy, and cost effective, which is the best part about it for, our clients, is it becomes very cost effective for our truckers. Now, if you're running, 5, 6, 7 trucks, don't expect $25. Okay. Let's be honest here. I mean, you got a bigger business than, a one owner operator out there running a business with one truck. You got 4 or 5, you're a much bigger business than that, but we'll still take care of you, and we'll still be at a very reasonable price for your business, as well as being an owner operator.
Barry, I know that because we've talked about this before when it comes to how you charge your clients. I know that everybody is different. You can't just do a cookie cutter. I see where Cam wrote back, how much would that cost for you to correct what we did on Tax Act? We are a small corp, barely making it, but trying. And you deal with a lot of small companies.
Yeah, we do. And we try to take care of it. The best thing I can tell you, Cam, is to call the number, to talk to our consultants. We'll get you a price, and be as reasonable as possible. We do got to pay our employees, so we do have to charge. I wish I could do everything for free, but I'm not the federal government giving handouts either. And I don't get to charge tariffs, so it doesn't make it fair, does it? But give us a call at 877-996-6477, and I'll make sure that if you do call there, ask for David, and then after the show, I'll talk to David, and we'll make sure that we give you a good discount for here putting messages and asking questions on Ask the Experts.
And we love your questions. Feel free to on our chat line here on YouTube. Also, they can call in to W4CY radio and give us their questions. Barry, before the show, we were talking, I was telling you about all the email and text that we received yesterday. Like, I'm going to be able to help them. But most of them were about, hey, I can't, yesterday was tax day. And a lot of them were, what if I can't pay my taxes? And what if I didn't file on time? If you'd like to touch on that.
So, hopefully you file the extension. And the extension itself, and like you and I talked about earlier, right before the show, man, I wish I would have been on yesterday, because it would have been nice to answer these questions on the 15th and not a day after. But hey, being that when we got to do the show, we got to do the show, right? You're supposed to pay, and I tell people to pay as much as possible. Now, a couple things that I always like to do is, if you're mailing in your extension, send a check for $100 plus whatever year it is. So 25. So you send in $125 at a minimum. If you're mailing your tax return, you would do the same thing. Actually 24. So it's with the same year of the return you're filing. But hey, file your return as soon as possible. And that's what I tell you. If you couldn't afford to pay, get it in. Let's stop the failure to file penalty at the lowest amount possible, and the failure to pay by April 15th. Then we can start dealing with the problem. And you can't deal with the problem until you file the return and it's processed and accepted by the IRS. Now, that being said, does not prevent you from going online and making payments. So if you do have a little bit of money and you want to pay on the 24 tax debt that's going to be when you file, you can go ahead and continue to pay on it, so that by the time you file, maybe the money will be there. Then they'll charge you interest and penalties on that. Now, if you're like a lot of people who didn't file, maybe you owe way more money than you can actually afford to pay. Once that return is filed and accepted, we can set you up on a payment plan and pay the IRS. Or maybe there's more years out there and it's a lot more money, and you can qualify for an offering compromise. We'll talk about that, and we'll see whether or not we can put you into the offering compromise and do away with all the debt. The other side of it is if you're in business, are you taking all the deductions that are available to you? And if you're doing your own bookkeeping or you're doing your own guesswork, I've seen many clients do that have come to us as, well, I just guessed. I just needed to put some numbers in. hey, real numbers, real deductions sometimes saves you a lot more, but it definitely saves you the headache if the IRS decides, hey, I'm going to audit you. And then you're in bigger trouble because you just use guesswork instead of real numbers. And we've seen that happen, and you don't want those things to happen to you either. We would rather see, hey, we take every possible deduction. Maybe we pull more stuff in that gets you closer to that goal line where you want to be in tax. And you're not setting yourself up for the red flags or, the penalty of having an audit that's out there. So, you really want to dot the I's, cross the T's, and make sure everything's right. And that's, whether you're using us or you're using somebody else, you want to find a good professional that's knowledgeable about your business, knowledgeable about taxes, and is willing to help you along the way. And sometimes it costs a little bit more, but I'll tell you what, those costs are tax deductible if you're in business, and make good use of that and take care of yourself, your business, by getting the taxes down to the lowest amount allowed by law. That's what the goal is.
Barry, one of the things that I love about taxation solutions is you're always thinking about ways that you can help American taxpayers out there. It's not all about money. You came up with this IRS playbook. Tell people about that.
It's funny. I've been kicked up and down the road for coming out with it by other professionals in my industry now, because they're like, why would you give away that kind of information?
Right.
I've been in this business a long time. Knowledge is power. It's really what it comes down to. And I've got the knowledge, and therefore I've got the power to do whatever in the heck I want to do. Now, I don't credit myself for this because it really wasn't my idea. My idea has always been to be on Ask the Experts and do our taxtalkforyou.com podcast and get the information out there and help. My wife goes, honey, why don't you write a book? Me? Write a book? Chance in anything that I can write. She goes, no, there's people out there that'll help you. And I said, well, what am I going to write about? I have a great title for a book. It's called You Can Fire Employees. You can fire them, but you can't kill them. And my wife goes, well, you can't write that one.
Yeah.
Well, a friend of mine told me I should because, when we first started this, employees were kind of, man, hit and miss. Some of them are got to be really strange. And we got great stories about, former people and, things you do for people and the way they treat owners and small businesses and stuff out there. But she goes, no, IRS playbook. Tell people what you do, how you do it, so they can do it themselves. I'm like, why? She goes, you explain it to everybody and Ask the Experts.
Right.
You explain it to everybody in your own podcast. So why not put it in something that works? I said, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Let's do it. So we wrote the IRS playbook. So you go to irsplaybook.info. It's just information. So it's not your .com websites. It's IRS playbook info. Go there. See our playbook. Our 3 simple steps that it takes to solve IRS problems. And so maybe you wanted to be a do-it-yourselfer. Hey, maybe you go to YouTube and you want to look these things up. Hey, go to irsplaybook.info and start there. Start your journey to figuring out how to relieve the stress of the IRS, how to get that tax monkey off your back, and better yet, get your wife off your back. Get the stress out of your life so you can actually sleep at night. not tossing and turning, wondering, is my money still going to be in my bank account when I wake up in the morning, or will the IRS have levied my bank account, or will the IRS have garnished my wages? That is at the end of the day, the best thing you can do in your life for your family, hey, and even for yourself, is just go take a look. IRSplaybook.info. Real simple to get to, real easy. It's not on Amazon or any of the other places out there. It's right there at IRSplaybook.info. There's no cost. It's going to ask you for some information, and then you can view it, see it, listen to it. It's there for you. It's there to help.
Yeah, I saw where Kelly wrote, it's just on Amazon or someplace.
No, I mean, one of these days we're going to actually put this in a paperback or something that you can do. But we didn't want to have to charge people. We didn't want to have to post it somewhere that, it was going to cost you something to get to. And so that's why we put it over there on its own website, irsplaybook.info, so everybody and their brother can get to it. Friends and family, when you get together for holidays or whatever, and if somebody ever says, hey, I owe the IRS money, hey, send them over to irsplaybook.info. I don't always recommend do it yourself program. And I can tell you why. And, you and Steve, you and I have talked about this many a times. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a plumber. I may do ranching and I may do some farming. I may do some gardening, and I'm not very good at it. I don't have a green thumb. But whenever I do my own electrical work or plumbing, the wife is right behind me with this little thing, calling somebody to fix the problem I'm creating that just made it even worse. And then it cost me even more because I'm not a plumber. I'm not an electrician, but I do know how to make a mess. I always laugh because my mom always told my dad, just because your father was a master electrician and worked on, the railroads and electric railroads at that, up in Chicago and Indiana. My mom, I remember this to the day. She always said to my dad, honey, let your dad come fix this because you're not an electrician. We can't afford you to burn this house down. And my dad would look at my mom and say a few words, and then he'd look at me and go, you can't say that. Do as I say, not as I do, and you can't use those words. Okay, Dad. Funny part about it is, ended up costing my mom more money because the electrician would charge more to fix my dad's problem, especially when my grandfather wasn't around to do it. My wife treats me the same way, except she doesn't use the word honey. She just tells me to shut up and go away. I'm making the phone call. I said, could you be a little nicer? No, because I'm afraid you're going to do this and it's going to cost us even more. Hey, the same thing with tax problems. Sometimes you get involved in your tax problem and you want to be a do-it-yourselfer and you make things worse. Sometimes you got to know when to call somebody to fix the problem as opposed to getting in there and making it worse. If you owe 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, a million plus, I recommend you call taxationsolutions.net at 877-996-6477 before you make it worse. Let us step into your shoes. You don't deal with the IRS ever. And we take care of you. We take care of your problem. And we guide you through this whole thing so that stress of that tax monkey is gone.
We just got a text in from a listener, Brooks in New Brunswick. You know where that is.
Hey, yeah.
He said, I haven't paid my taxes in 5 years. I'm not proud of that, but if I hired your company, would that raise red flags to the IRS?
Absolutely not. You're probably getting letters, and if you filed and you have the correct address on your return, I've seen people not put the correct address because they're afraid of letters. Um, IRS already knows the red flags are already there. What it is now just figuring out what the solution is going to be. You know, and it starts like with that transcript analysis. I mean, it's not a red flag at all. We get all the information the IRS has. We have proprietary software that we run that pulls down the information from the IRS so that we know, if there's years you misfiled, there's years that you didn't report all your income, there's years you over-reported income. Um, everything there is about you, what the IRS letters are saying, what they're sending to you. We're able to, when we call the IRS, to put a hold on any collections if they're active, and sometimes they're not active. And so, we can take our time to put a solution in place that's right for you. If they're being active or starting to get really active, we put a stop to all collection activity so that we have the time to, maybe finish 24's taxes. Maybe it's amend some taxes because they were done wrong. Maybe it's just to put a partial pay installment agreement out there. Every situation is different. We just got to go through that analysis to figure out what's right for you in your situation, and not the cookie cutter approach of saying everything is right for everybody. That's where we need to start from. But it's not a red flag. It doesn't flag the IRS for, hey, let's start collections out there. They have their own time frame, regardless of anything we do. Now, if they're about to start collecting and we put holds on there and you miss deadlines, that was going to happen anyway. It would probably happen sooner because the collections were active or about to get active, and then you ignored them. It would happen sooner. Our holds, hey, they know we're working with them. They know we're working with you. They're going to give us a little bit more leeway and a little bit more time to get things done. Now, if you got debt that's older than 5 years and maybe you're closer to 8, 9 years and we're closer to CSEDs, guess what? We're going to find a way to stall as much as possible to maybe let those CSEDs run out so that some of the tax debt goes away. There's a lot of different techniques to solving the tax debt. We have a lot of things in our arsenal that we use to save you as much money as possible, including penalty forgiveness.
We just got another text. God, we're getting a lot of messages today. Bert in Sugarland. That is Sugarland's part of Houston, right?
Yep, just
Yeah,
southwest.
he wants to know how far back can the IRS go?
Well, it depends. Did you commit fraud? And it's open season, my friend. Generally, what the IRS is looking for, if you haven't filed in the last 6 years, they are looking to go back and make sure that the last 6 years have been filed. Now, that being said, when we do transcript analysis, we go all the way back as far as we can possibly go, basically to 2000. And we look at all the information that's there. Now, if you are a contractor and you've been getting 1099s or even 1099Rs or gambling winnings, IRS may have gone in and done substitute for return for you. And you would want to file those returns because they probably filed them to the benefit of the IRS, not to the benefit of you. And they didn't take all your deductions. So there would be tax debt on those years that are there. But if you don't have that problem, generally they're going to ask you to file for the last 6 years. IRS has 10 years to collect from when the return was filed and accepted. So yes, 10 years ago, you would have been filing 2014's return right about now. If you didn't file 2014 until 2017, they still have 3 more years on top of that to collect. So you want to make sure we get the full transcript analysis done, see where you're at, see what's really needed, and then proceed to get the solutions in place from there.
Heath down there in the chat line wants to know, does this information apply to business or individual or both?
Okay, some of this information applies to businesses, some of it applies to individuals, some of it's going to apply to both. Now, here's the bad thing. If you're in business and this is payroll taxes, you're not going to avoid the payment of back payroll taxes unless you close the business down and completely out of business. That does not mean, and I've seen this happen, close your business and open up another business doing the same thing. That new business is going to be still subject to what you were doing before. But if you run the corporation, didn't have the trust fund penalties levied against you because they have 3 years to file trust fund penalties against you, then yes, if you close the business, those business taxes can go away. Individually, you got that 10-year statute of limitations on your income tax. So, you kind of got to watch what you're doing. Payroll taxes, we may be able to go offer and compromise for effective tax administration, but they're not going to just get rid of the liability itself. So there are certain reasons they do accept it. We've got to look at it and talk to you and see whether you will qualify or not. They will take payment plans for business as well as personal. And depending on your situation and how much you owe and how much the ability to pay is, they will work with us to make a decision on how much that payment plan is going to be. Penalty relief, we get penalty relief for with cause for individuals, and same thing for business with cause. And it depends on the reasons, and we really work with you to try to come up with as many reasons to get those penalties abated as quick and as easy as possible.
Barry, I got to get this in. I know we only have a few minutes left. This is probably the most amazing text that we've received about your show. This is from Ronald in West Texas. Now, folks, just so you know, there is a city called West in Texas. We're not talking about the west part of Texas. But he said, I found your show a couple months ago, and I have never done this before, but I have to thank you. I don't know if people thank you enough for offering a show like this, because this can touch so many people's lives. And I just wanted to text you to thank you for offering a show like this. God bless you. I had to get that in.
Hey, Steve, you do a great show. Ask the Experts is wonderful, and everything you get out there, both here in the Houston show and the nationwide show. You do a great thing, helping people. So yes, Ask the Experts is wonderful. And I always thank you for letting us be on here and having us on the show so we can get out the information to help people on taxes.
And you're going to be on with us next Wednesday at 9:00 Central. Barry will be doing his live show with us. And then you have a Monday show that you do, Barry.
Yes, Tax Talk for You. If you go to taxtalkforyou.com, you can subscribe over there, never miss an episode. Catch us on Facebook. Tune in to that. But definitely, if you got a tax problem, call taxationsolutions.net at 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. And hey, the beautiful part, Ask the Experts, you can find them on YouTube. You can any show you missed of us being here, you can find there. Go back and
iHeart
shows, iHeart, Spotify,
Spotify. Yeah, all Barry shows are, it's amazing. You can go back. Barry, I can't thank you enough. We'll see you next week. This show is not rehearsed. We don't have scripts. It is the easiest show to do. And we just thank you for your time educating people. Barry Fowler, Taxation Solutions.
Again, thank you, Steve. Everybody have a God bless and glorious week.
Thank you, Barry. Barry will be back in with us next Wednesday at 9 o'clock Central. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you, Rebel. We'll see you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.